friends, it's just Martine and welcome to the start of another weekly reading vlog. It is Monday, April 8th. Listen, my reading last week was incredible, but then this weekend it took a sharp nosedive. But that's okay, because reading this week is going to be great too. I think my main goal is one specific book that is haunting me from last week, and that's because last week I spent the whole week saying I'm going to finish Beautiful Darkness, and then I didn't. I'm currently like 60% of the way into this book, and this is enemy number one for the week. Not as in it'll be the first book I finish, because it probably actually won't. I'm closer to the end of another book, I think, time-wise at least, but this will happen this week. So help me. I'm also reading a fun horror book that I'll talk to you about at some point. Maybe getting back into some audiobook action, trying to make my way through the shelf this read for the month. All these things. All these things. Let's get to reading. Happy Friday. I have been more ready than chatty this week, so you haven't heard much from me, but I have been reading things. I'm not going to talk about all of the things I finished in this clip because I feel like that's a lot to talk about in this moment, but I will tell you about 3 books, methinks. The first is a brand new horror book called Monsters We Have Made. The basic idea behind this is we're largely following a mom. Years ago, her daughter was convicted of, I think it's attempted murder, or did the girl actually die? Anyway, she basically stabbed her babysitter a ton of times, so like crazy stuff. The reason that the child did this is because she said the king man told her to, and so there's also a lot of like weird mythology in this one about the king man, which the author like entirely made up. It's super cool how she did this king man as like this weird figure. I don't know. It's been years. The mom hasn't seen her daughter in like a really long time, and all of a sudden her daughter's daughter is dropped off at her house, and she realizes that her daughter is missing, and she has to figure out where she went, what she did, etc. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. It was generally like pretty engaging, and it had some vibes that I'm generally looking for. It was easy to read. It was really mysterious. Like, we shifted timelines a lot, and it was just a big page turner, I would say. Like, I wanted to figure out what was happening. For the first third of it, I would say I wanted to figure out how things in the past had happened, and then we moved on to seeing how things now happened and how that was connected to the past and all those things. So in general, it was really interesting. I liked it, and it like just came out, I think, at the end of March. So anyway, I had a fun time with that. And then I did actually manage to finish Beautiful Darkness. And I can only say that I accomplished this because of the audiobook, because I listened to the last chunk on audiobook because I really didn't care at that point. And I'm giving it 2.5 stars because I genuinely feel like if the main characters made a decision, even one, the series could be over, but they refuse to make a decision, and so the series keeps going. And the series is not short. Like, there are only 4.5 books, but each book is really, really long, like 500 pages, and I just don't think it needs to be. In this series, we're following this guy, and he's been dreaming about this girl, and suddenly she moves into town, like she's a real girl, and he's like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And things go from there. In this one, people just keep not making decisions and miscommunicating, and like, I'm over it, you know? But then I did read the novella Dream Dark, which is following one of the secondary characters after the events of this second book, and it's just a really short story, but I gave it 3 stars, so I did like it better than the long book. Crazy how that works, just because I like Link as a character, and it actually ended even before I thought it was going to. Like, I thought there was more left, and then it ended, whereas in the books in the series, I feel like it's going to end, and then it never stops, so that did make me like the novella more. But those are 3 of the big things that I've accomplished reading so far this week, and I'll tell you about some of the others later, but now I've got some work to get back to, so. Happy Saturday. I'm here to bring you an update because a couple of days ago I read Edge of Collapse by Kyla Stone and I'm giving it 4 stars. Typically, I'm not big into the books that deal with what would happen on Earth if there was an electromagnetic pulse and basically society like fell apart. Okay, I guess I do like stories where society falls apart, but I feel like EMPs have been like a big thing for a couple years in books, and like I've never successfully found a good book with that as the plot. But somebody told me about this one and I didn't read anything about it. She said she really enjoyed it, and so I decided to give it a read. I'm giving it 4 stars because this is both the same as every other EMP book and totally different from every EMP book. It's typical in that it's got the same vibe and like survival type story, but it's different in the character that we're following. And I think honestly that makes all the difference, because in this one we're following a character who several years ago was kidnapped and taken and basically stashed in this room. And when the EMP goes off, the door in the room that she's trapped in gets unlocked and she escapes. So that dynamic was really interesting to me, especially because her kidnapper then goes after her after she escapes, and we see what happens from there. So I really enjoyed this one, so much so that I then immediately read the prequel, Chaos Rising, which is following the main male character in this series and basically what happens before he meets up with the main female character. And I'm giving that one 3.5 stars. It was still pretty interesting, but just not as compelling as the first full book. We basically see him meeting up with his twin brother and his twin's wife, who is like 9 months pregnant at the time, and then they're all together when the EMP goes off, and so we see what happens from there. So overall, I really enjoyed the start to this series, and I put a hold on the second book. So who knows when I'll get that, because it like has a months-long waiting list, and also I've been clicking deliver later on like all my holds. I don't know when I'll read it, but these first 2 books, the prequel and the first full book, were enjoyable for me. So I'm down to continue and see where it goes, especially because things are like not resolved. Like I still want to see what happens to the main characters in this series, so I am interested in that. I'm going to have some reading sprints with my sister later today, in which I'll hopefully finish a book, but I will for sure keep you updated on that. And then I'm also hoping to finish 1 book tomorrow to be able to tell you about. So we'll just have to see, but yay for weekend reading time. Hello, it is well into the next week and I did not have a chance to update you at the end of Sunday or at the beginning of Monday because life has been insane. So I'm here to talk to you about 2 books that I finished at the end of last week. I'm just gonna go quickly through them. So the first was Museum of Thieves, which I gave 2 stars. The premise of this book, really interesting. It's a middle grade book where basically this girl like runs away from her family, kind of. The society is weird that she lives in anyway. So she runs away from them and she ends up in this museum that only thieves can get into. And it's a really weird museum and like shifts and stuff. But I have to tell you, that's where my enjoyment ended. I liked the idea of a museum of thieves, but the execution just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me, and I didn't care and I didn't like it. So I'm going to pretend like it doesn't exist, and I'm going to move on to the book that I finished on Sunday, which was All the Fighting Parts, which I gave 4 stars. This is a YA book written in verse about this girl, and her mother's passed away, and after her mom passes away, her dad throws their family into the church kind of hardcore because her mom was really religious and really cared about going to church and all those things. So they go to church a lot more, but then the pastor there is up to some shady stuff and he does some terrible things, including to the main character of this book. And so we're following the fallout of that event, both emotionally and then like actual events in the world as she discloses what happened to her, etc. I think this handled some really hard topics really well, and 4 stars for this book I think is incredible for me because I listened to it on audiobook, so the fact that I like paid attention the whole time was miraculous. I just feel like it's really hard to write a book in verse that is 5 stars. It's just not my preferred way to tell a story, but I do love reading them because it's something different and also they're way faster than prose books, but I did finish that and I definitely enjoyed it. Make sure you check any trigger warnings before you decide to read it, but I thought it was really good and well done. So those were the books I ended off the week with. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below a little dove emoji. Is there a dove emoji? I feel like there is. Comment that. And subscribe for more bookish and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!